Hello, my name is Sydney Salinger, and I am the owner of the Poodle Booked Travel Agency, and I am here as your guide for all things river cruising on the River Cruising Masterclass. I will say I did some math. I was asked a question this week about how many cruises have I been on, and I have been on 52 cruises, and I have 3 more river cruises planned this year. So by the time we hit New Year's, I will have 55 cruises under my belt, and I cannot believe it, to be truthfully honest. But I say that not in a brag, but in a way to be like, I understand the different cruise lines and how it can help benefit you. And that's kind of where the series came about. So this new series that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be releasing a new episode every single Wednesday. And it is going to be on each river cruise that there is. And in case you didn't know, there is more than just Viking on the river. They might have the most boats, they might be the loudest, but that might not actually be the best cruise for you. However, it could be. I've been on 2. They're great trips, but I just want you to be aware of all the different options and how they might work for you. So here's how this is going to work. So what we're going to do is today's going to be an overview. I'm going to go over the questions that I'm going to be answering for every cruise line. So each episode is going to be a highlight of a river cruise, and I'd be answering 15 questions. Who it's for, what they're about, and how and why it might or might not be the best fit for you and your family. And then we're going to just go through it one by one every Wednesday. But with this first episode, I kind of wanted to go over some things that you might not know about river cruising, some high-level overviews. So what is a river cruise, right? So river cruising is how you can do, I consider it like a floating hotel. So you get to go along a lot of different rivers, stopping in the heart of charming villages, historic towns, wine countries. You're going to have less movement. You're not going to have as many like things that you're going to have to bus to, or if you bus, it won't be as much as if you did a ocean cruise. But there's less people. All river cruises are going to be usually 100 to 190 passengers, and the pace is going to be more relaxed, immersive, scenic, but you can also do a bunch of walking and exploring if you want to. So that is an option if that is something that you are interested in. It is not about casinos. It is not about what you're getting on board the ship. The ship is definitely just like a moving hotel, and that is how I would consider a river cruise. And so some of the cruise ships are going to have pools, but that's not going to be like a highlight. And none of them are going to have casinos. None of them are going to have, they have like a teeny tiny gift shop. That's always something my mom is worried about. It's like, what about a gift shop? So when we talk about how river cruising differs from ocean cruising, in terms of like port proximity, you're going to be docking more like in the center of town. One of the things, and I guess this will be a hot take, is in Europe, especially like doing the Mediterranean, I don't like the mega cruise ships because of how far they park away from the cities. So, in Venice, they say they port in Venice, but they're actually 2 hours away. If it was a smaller cruise ship of less than 300 people, so like your Atlas, your Scenic, your Emerald, they get to park in the city of, close to the city of Venice and be like 20 minutes away. So that makes a huge difference. And that's the same with river cruising. So river cruising, you're on the river, you're going to be in the heart of these cities that are built thousands of years ago and were, a main lifeblood of these countries, because as you already know, rivers are the lifeblood of a country before we had the Industrial Revolution. There are fewer sea days. There's never going to be a day where you're just only sailing. In the Rhine River, you have the Rhine Gorge, which is going to be a half-day adventure. But even then, you are just slowly moving down the river and you will stop in the afternoon. I think there might be actually one that does a full day of sailing, and that's when you're going through the Iron Curtain into Romania and that area, if you're going to do that part of the Danube River, which is on my bucket list. It is on my list. I'm thinking next year, but we'll see what happens there. Now, the size and the feel. If you are going from your mainstream cruise lines, so your Princess, your Celebrity, and you're going to a river cruise, it is going to be a huge difference. You're not going to have the same entertainment on board. Usually at night, if they have anything, they're going to have like a classical pianist or something that historic to the area. Like in Hungary and Budapest, they usually have like some dancers come in and talk like the Hungarian folk dancing, things of that nature. So it's not going to be the exact same feel as you have on an ocean cruise where they have a comedian, they have the huge dance troupe. They're not going to have that. But it is more personal, it is fewer crowds, and higher service. And then when you're talking about the entertainment differences, as I was talking about before, it's going to be very focused on cultural enrichment over those flashy shows. We are really focused on the destinations, not the ship. So we are not talking an icon of the seas where the ship has become the destination. With river cruising, the destination is the destination without having to pack and unpack every day. Like it's the best of both worlds, in my personal opinion. Now, when you're talking about the onboard atmosphere, you won't need a formal gown, but you are definitely going to, I would say it's country club casual. So I usually wore jeans at dinner. There was maybe one night I dressed up. Alma Waterways does a chef's dinner. And so I did wear a sundress for that. We're not talking full regalia. Some of the more higher end brands will do like private dinners at a castle. I would probably bring a dress for that, but I'm always there for a photo shoot. So things like that, but you are definitely going to get some great food and wine. And that's another thing. On almost every single cruise line, it's included. I mean, the food is always included, but usually you get lunch with wine and dinner. You get lunch with wine and dinner. You get local beer and wine with lunch and dinner. So, and usually champagne with breakfast. Let's not be real. You always have time for a mimosa. But those are usually what's included. I will say as we get in depth into what everyone is talking and into all of it, we will go through it for each cruise line so that you know what you're kind of getting yourself into. Now, I do love ocean cruising and I will always go on them. I will say that as I've gotten older, I have focused more on your premium to small cruise ships. My Facebook group is called The Cruise Collective. It's tips for small cruising, small ships, expedition, and river cruising, because that is really where I love to go into. I love it because with cruise ships that are under 1,000 people, which is kind of like where I hit the max at, you get to go to more intimate ports, detailed kind of excursions, and just it's a whole different feel than your mega lines. But I'm no longer going on a cruise ship for the ship itself, unless I'm going on Virgin Voyages for a little weekend or getaway. I will say that one is close to my heart on that part. But anyways, most people are going to think a river cruise is a river cruise, but that is actually far from the truth. Each line has a distinct personality, just like each ocean cruise line does, right? So those who like Princess, Holland, Royal, or even if you're getting into the fancier lines, Regent, Silver Seas, Ponant, Atlas, they all have a different vibe because they are all vying for a very specific person because they know who they want to attract. But the question is, do you know what you want in a cruise ship? And most people don't. Most people are just looking at price and not actually looking at what these cruise ships are going to include. I can talk about, so with river cruising, you're going to have Viking, who does a great job with marketing you and saying they are the one and only river cruise company, period. But do you know that Avalon provides you with a couple of options to look at excursions, and the way that their French balcony sets, the bed actually faces the balcony, so you can actually see the water as you're sailing by. Alma Waterways includes all excursions. So you get like 2 or 3 options a day and you get to pick what you want. You can pick multiple options. And so there are a lot of things that make these different lines unique. And that's not just with inclusions. You're also going to talk about how many people are on board, who they specialize on, and which ones actually are kid-friendly, which ones are adult-only, which ones are going to cater towards a certain person. You are also going to have traditional, ultra-modern, true luxury, those that are an active adventure. Some include everything, and others will surprise you with a bill at the end. So there are cruise lines that have various vibes, inclusions, excursions, and even a range of guests. So for example, you have Uniworld, and Uniworld, I'm going on them to Egypt for the Nile, but they are very much known for creating their cruise ships for where they're at. It is very gaudy. It is like, so when you go to the one on the Seine River, it is literally like the Palace of Versailles threw up on this ship. It has all the chandeliers, it's got the velvet, it has all of this stuff. And it is amazing for a person who absolutely loves that. But if you are someone who prefers sleek, Scandinavian, very modern lines, you're going to hate it. But how would you know if you didn't have someone guiding you along the way to kind of tell you what the difference between these brands are? It's kind of like choosing a hotel brand. There is a huge difference between Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, a boutique property, a resort chain, and this is exactly why I'm going to be breaking all of this down in this new series that we're releasing. So today's Monday, and every Wednesday from here for literally 15 weeks. And I keep finding new cruise lines to do it. So we might be at 17 by the time this is done. I'm not going to lie, of different cruise lines. And I am really only focusing on European waterways. That is how many cruise lines you don't know about that are here. And it baffles my mind sometimes. There are 3 new cruise lines coming out next year alone. And that's with brands you know. Anyways, I get excited. I'm sorry. So the reason why I'm doing this series is because I have sailed many of these cruise lines myself. I've booked dozens of clients on different river cruise companies. I love river cruising. I think it's an amazing way to travel. It's honestly, it works beautifully. I am not someone who likes to pack and repack every day. I also overpack, but that's a different story. But what works beautifully for one traveler is not always right for another. And so I kind of want to make sure that I'm not just repeating a cruise line sales pitch, because I do have the business development managers for some of these cruise lines come on and we talk about, the new ships that they have coming out, like a new itinerary, some really fun ones. I just had Emerald, not their river cruise, but their yachts come in and talk about their product. First of all, I'm in love with Emerald yachts. But it's a different feel if I'm just telling you the straight facts from what I see, what I feel, and what I see when I research it online. So this is not something that I'm going into lightly. And I want to say that this is also my own personal opinion. But I'm going to be kind of doing an advisor's perspective with behind the scene insights to give you those standout moments, things that usually could have been better, and just a no fluff, no blind loyalty. I am not loyal to any river cruise brand because I am loyal to my clients. I am not someone who will sell the same thing over and over again because I think that each cruise line has the right client for it. And so I was just talking to a client about, going to to Ireland. And they were talking about a brand they'd sailed before. And they said, oh, I love this. It was so great. And I wanted to continue that purchase because it would have been an easier sail. But I wanted to educate them on a different cruise line that I think does Ireland better. And so we had that discussion. We were talking about it because I want to make sure that with all the research I have, the amount of time that I spend researching different cruise lines, different locations, where to visit, that you guys know that I am here to do that work, but also to understand you as a client so that you understand what you're getting and why this is the best trip for you. Not for anyone else, not for Sally next door, but for you. So what I might like is not what you're going to like, but I can provide you with the pros and cons of these different cruise lines and why I think that's the best fit for you. I digress. Okay, so As I've kind of talked about, each episode is going to cover one river cruise company at a time. And I'm not going to do compare and contrast. I've done that before. I really just want each cruise line to stand by itself with these 15 questions. And I will be answering every question for every cruise line. There'll be no skipping, so you can compare them if you want. It's going to be the vibe on board. It's going to be who's it for, what's included, where it really shines, what it could improve on, its value for money, or if you want to wait for a deal, if it's better if there's a sale. And the goal is to basically match each listener to the cruise line for their travel style. And then you can honestly, I hope you don't do this by yourself, but by the end, you might be able to have enough information to book it yourself. But I'm always here for consults as well if you ever have it. So here are the questions that we are going to be going over. The first one is going to be, I wrote them all down. What sets this cruise line apart from others? What is its best known for in the river cruise market? Like every line, has to have its own distinctive style, its philosophy, some both sleek, modern designs, one are more opulent, highlight how this is different. And then the next one, so question number 2 is its ideal audience. Who's it for? Who's the ideal traveler for this cruise line? And who might it not be suited for? Each cruise line has catered to a specific demographic, as I was talking about before, and you will know if that you are the right person for that crowd. And now we have the onboard atmosphere and vibe. So what is the onboard atmosphere on this cruise line? Is it casual? Is it formal? Is it intimate? Is it social? Is it traditional? Is it contemporary? I'm going to describe the general mood on board, the social scene. Like, is it more relaxed and low key? Are we doing activities? And how does that feel? And, if that's something that you're looking for on board. And so then the next one's going to be the ships and the accommodations, right? So what do the actual staterooms and suites on board look like in terms of comfort, luxury, amenities? Not only am I going to talk about the decor, I'm also going to talk about the size. So river cruises do have a serious space constraint. If you will actually look, they're all the same size, but they all hold a different amount of people. It goes from 190 to 100, but that is the exact same size ship. And you were talking about 90 extra people. So where are they going? Who's losing space for that to happen, right? So, and then what are those amenities, balconies, fringe balconies? If the suites, are there elevators, unique facilities on board? Some cruise ships have massages. I did on the Waterways, and a 1-hour massage was only 80 euros. I'm glad I didn't know about that until the last day, because I probably would have had 3. I love my massages. So anyways, some don't have massage parlors at all. Some don't even have pools. So kind of understanding what that looks like and how you can figure it out. And so the next thing is going to be like, how do they do onboard entertainment and activities? Are they known for themed parties while you're on board? Uniworld usually always has like a 70s or like some sort of themed party while you're on board. If you're going on the Christmas markets, I always recommend On the Waterways because they do the most when it comes to the holidays. Every single night they have a different activity. I'm gonna wait till we go over it when I go through it, but it was so much fun. We even they hid candy outside of our rooms every night. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. Because you're not going to get Broadway shows, but sometimes some of them have a little bit more in terms of evening activities than others. And inclusions and onboard amenities, right? So what's included in your fare on this cruise line and what costs extra? So kind of give a rundown of, are all the excursions included? Is alcohol, gratuities, Wi-Fi? Is it only your basic drinks? What does the all-inclusive include, right? Some say they're all-inclusive, but have different sort of things that are extra. Some have this part and, versus this part. So we're going to go through for each cruise line what that looks like so that you can kind of understand if there is extra charges for premium tours, premium drinks, airport transfers, laundry, because there are some that the airport transfers are included even if you don't book air through them. So this is just going to help you guys understand the value and what you have to think of as additional costs when you go on a cruise. And then the next is, how does this cruise line handle shore excursions and itineraries, right? So what do the destinations look like? What kind of tours are offered? Are they just guided walks? Is there some active options, exclusive experiences? And this is going to kind of play into what's included and what's not, but some of the cruise lines have exclusive experiences where they will, as I said, rent out the like castles and do a 5-course dinner. That's something that Tauk does, as well as Scenic. And they're going to do, and then, so with Avalon, they're part of Globus. And so they're going to leverage their tour experience and craft exclusive shore excursions based on those relationships they already have. And then there's also some cruise lines have unique regions that others don't sell. And in this same piece, I'll also talk about how, depending on how large the cruise line is, they usually might have multiple itineraries for the same river. I did the Danube River 3 times, and I saw different ports on each one. Now, there was some that were the same. Vienna and Budapest were always there, but I got to see different parts of Germany and Austria, so you can definitely do the same river and do different itineraries. The next question is value for money. Is the cruise line a good value? Why or why not? And so I'm going to give you an honest take about how I feel in general about the value of this cruise line. Now, that can change from Monday to Tuesday, so please take this with a grain of salt. But based on what I see, here's what I'm going to talk about. I will also, in this one, talk about what promos you see online and how they really connect to the true value of a cruise. There are a lot that are like buy one, get one free all the time, but if it's the promotion all the time, is it really a good deal? Or how does it just like convince you that you're getting a better deal than you are? It might still be an amazing cruise line, but just something to think about when you're doing that piece of it. So, and then I'm going to do some trip highlights. So, like, what is my personal highlight or favorite aspect from this cruise line? And if I don't have any, it might be something that I have from another travel advisor, because we are always talking, and I definitely someone who used my resources, or a past guest. And so I will definitely be looking for those personal favorites of things that have happened with that cruise line. And then drawbacks or areas for improvement. Like, where could this cruise line improve? What should you be aware of? Any downsides? No cruise line is perfect. And no cruise line is going to fit someone 100%, right? So just preparing, like, just providing that, like, fair critique, like, as I talked about, like, if they do, buy one, get one free all the time, is it just, pricing to confuse people? So just to kind of highlight those sort of things. And then expectations versus reality. Does the cruise line live up to the hype and its marketing promise? So this is going to be kind of like a myth versus truth, because you have tons of travel marketing as, this is what this is going to look like. But I just want to focus on being as realistic as I can and making sure that you go into a trip with eyes wide open. And then I am going to do like a behind the scenes. So like if there are any behind the scenes factors of this company that might, influence it. So for example, you have a family run line like Uniworld with how it does its personal touches and how it relates to the Tolman family's art collection and how each one is decorated, basically similar to their hotels that they own. It could be, so for example, the owner of AMA Waterways is actually the godfather of all river cruising. And then I'm also going to do, for this last part, is recent updates and what's new. So what are the latest updates, news regarding this cruise line? Kind of like a catch-up of the high-level news and what you might not have heard about if you don't spend all your time researching river cruise companies like I do. But it could be new ships launching, fleet refurbishments, and most of the cruise lines actually refurbish their ships between January and March, because most cruise lines actually aren't running. It is starting last year, I think was the first year you had river cruises running 12 months out of the year. So it is still something new and it's still not very popular. And if you are looking for an amazing deal for river cruising, I do recommend that January to March timeframe. But so basically, those are kind of the things that I'm going to be talking about. So we are going to explore everything from household names like Viking, AMA Waterways, to more boutique experiences like Uniworld, Riverside, Tauk, and some that you might not have heard about because they're coming out next year. Lindblad, you have Celebrity, you have Trafalgar is coming out with some new lines. And you might have also never heard of ones like Avalon, Amadeus, American Cruise Lines. So we're going to go through the full gambit of river cruise companies that you might not have known about that is the perfect cruise for you. So please follow along each week as we dive into each cruise line. I recommend that you listen. I have it on this podcast. I also have it on YouTube if you want to see my face. I sometimes put on makeup for it, give or take. You can also go to my Facebook group if you have any questions or comments. It is the Cruise Collective, Small Expedition and River Cruising Tips with Sydney. And you can ask questions before the specific river cruise that you want to know about is. If you have a question that you want answered about every single one, if you catch it, I love it, I will add it in and I will revert back and do like a little tiny mini podcast on some of them so you can answer it as well. So I appreciate you listening and I literally cannot wait for this series so that I can help you cruise smarter, not just fancier. And if you ever stared at a dozen river cruise options and thought they all look the same, I promise you they don't. And I'm here to help you find the exact one that fits you. Thank you for listening. I would love if you subscribe, and I can't wait for you to listen to the next episode. And I will tell you, I am going in alphabetical order. So can you guess which one I'm going to do first? I'm going to leave it as a surprise. I'll see you on Wednesday. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much.